Ooh, I'm back. All right, so what I was saying is like it was interesting to me that there was more information being shared on, and I will say that it was like decades after this stuff supposedly happened, but basically giving the notion that not only is that not a natural celestial being, that it hasn't always been there. The Nomos also have stories currently. They have stories currently of when it showed up. It was one day not there, and then over whatever amount of time, it was put there. They have that story. And so me knowing of that story and then now finding these videos through various channels like Young Elder has I think it might have been his channel actually that had the old video talking about it. But it's on multiple. It's also on Y Files. They did it after I had come to this. The Y Files YouTube channel also the shit. Love it. And so this thing that we're all being taught about as kids to be, a celestial body, it's always been there. It controls the tides. It pulls on the liquids and functions within our body just as it does with the tides. Not to say that those things aren't true, but to say that it has always been there. And to know that that's not true, but to continue to teach that and push that at the beings that are, here. It was just another clue for me. Like, and so when I hear this person talking about it, and I realize it's not just a story that the Nomos has because my brain is still rewiring at this time. So previous to this, my assertion or my thought, not assertion, was that that was just a clan or a tribe story. It was a tribal story, and they have a lot of allegorical stuff, a lot of very fictional dramatized stuff. But that made me rethink that. Like, okay, so if this government entity is now kind of saying, hey, we don't actually know that that's been there the whole time, and it looks like it's a planet or a moon, but it's actually metal and hollow with a bunch of dust on it, and it's all like the same level all the way around. Meaning, if a meteor hits it or an ash, if a meteor hits it or anything hits it, it'll make a crater, but the bottom of that crater is flat. You know, flat in the sense that it's round. You can't go past a certain point into it, is what I mean. That was very interesting to me. So whoever, is talking about this in the moment that I'm watching this specific video says the name of a book, Our Satellite Moon. I've been talking about this for a minute. I'm bringing this up because of the whole the Mandela effect narrative. So I go look up this book on Amazon. I find the book almost immediately. Our Satellite Moon. I wish I could remember who wrote it. I don't. I just know it was a researcher or a doctor. Our Satellite Moon. I find it on Amazon. It's like $100 and something, which I don't have that in that moment to spend on one book that I'm loosely interested in. So I put it in my save for later on Amazon, and I'm like, you know what? If I get to a point where I have an extra $100 and I am feeling like it, even I'll buy this book just to see this person's extensive research on that topic, which basically means I'm probably not going to get this book. I guess more so I was like, I'll put this here, and if the price drops, then I'll probably snatch that bitch up. And so that was probably like a year to a year and a half ago, maybe longer than that. So probably 2 years ago, and recently, for one reason or another, I get the book as a present. I get a book called Our Satellite, the Moon, right? Not Our Satellite Moon, Our Satellite, the Moon. And I'm not upset about it because that's the only thing that they could find. They looked for that book, but the only thing they could find was that, and they weren't sure, and they didn't want to say anything about it because it was a present, it was a gift, it's supposed to be a surprise. So I open up this book, and as I'm opening it, immediately being said is like, well, I kind of figured this isn't the book, but I figured I'd give it a shot anyway. And it's not the book, but that's okay in any sense, because it was $100 book anyway. If they would have found the right book, it would have been like, I'm not finna get this fucking book for this nigga, man. But more importantly, as I'm looking at the book, I'm like, hey, this is like almost like the opposite of what the book was intended on being, what it was said to have been. Basically, like flat out disclosure and research on the alternative theory of the moon. This, what I'm holding, is like trying to like reinforce. Nope, the moon is it's always been there. It's a chunk of maybe the Earth that came off in some kind of celestial event. Blah 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 blah. Bullshit. And I'm like, okay, well that's lame. This book came out to basically reinforce the desired narrative. And then within conversation, as I'm looking at this, it's brought up that book, the original book, the Our Satellite Moon, is gone. I say, what do you mean it's gone? So I go to Amazon. It's no longer in my saved later, which is weird because even if a book is no longer available, it doesn't disappear from Amazon. If it's in your saved later or in your cart, it'll just say currently unavailable or no longer available. It's completely gone. It's no longer in my Amazon anywhere at all. You can't even find it searching for it. And while I'm not surprised because it's a specific topic that is not necessarily desired to get out and be made known on a large scale, it is weird that it just disappeared like that. And as I'm just quickly looking through to confirm that it's gone. I did not believe it, but I just wanted to see it for myself because that's very weird. I start thinking to myself, see, now I'm supposed to think to myself, oh my gosh, it's the Mandela effect. But in reality, it's not the Mandela effect, most likely. It's just been scrubbed. It's just been taken off. The internet is not something that can't be manipulated on a large scale. It just doesn't happen very much because that's a lot of energy to get it off that many different platforms. But if it's something as big as that, something as important to whoever as that, yeah, they can scrub that shit. The Kardashians have scrubbed shit off the internet. It's not impossible. You may still find some shit if you really, really dig for hours, but for the most part, it's gone because they went to every... If you have a person that you pay to look for every iteration of the thing that you would like scrubbed, all they need to do is now go to every platform and avenue that they find and say, hey, you got to take that down. Or, hey, we'll pay you to take that down. Whatever it takes. I think more times than not, that's what Mandela stuff is. And, and you get fucked with about it. Like, supposedly... with the Shazam thing, Sinbad was in some kind of interview, or he filmed a fake interview himself and said that they were like going to people's houses and collecting copies of the tapes and posters and memorabilia and shit, and strong-arming people and paying people and so on and so forth. And then he said, nah, I was just joking. But I would believe that if it leads to something that they wouldn't want people to realize or know, and you only think that money is a resource that is finite. It doesn't even really matter. Like it's ones and zeros at this point. You don't actually have to have the currency to pay your employees. So if you can spend all the money in the world to get these people to scrub this shit, not only from the internet, but from reality, take all of it back and we're going to burn it. But there are plenty of people that they didn't get to. With physical things, it's harder. You don't have a codex or, any way to say this is all the people that have the Princess Diana Furby, or this is all the people that have a copy of Star Wars with that nigga saying, Luke, I am your father. Like, it's not so much some kind of mystical thing as it is, really scrubbing some shit from everything. It's not to. I do believe that there is some kind of technology, because there's a story talking about, uh, you know, Trump's uncle apparently worked on the team that went and cleaned up, uh, you know, um, that went and cleaned. Damn, his name just left my brain. That went and cleaned up the lab of Jesus 369 dude. What the fuck? Um, Gassing out. Um. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. The one of the best inventors of our time, who many believe was maybe channeling or from a different place or whatever. Um, Apparently, Trump's uncle found a bunch of things, but within that, he found either the plans for or an actual time machine. And so I don't know whether that's true or not. I could believe it though, because I think that many times we're told that the things that are useful don't exist, or it's crazy to believe in them, uh, just so that a much smaller group of entities can use it. Um, and so, do I think that the Mandela effect is not real at all? I don't think that. I just think that it's played up a lot more to be kind of like uh, a veil for just entities using their resources to scrub some shit. And so that was a big digression. I'm still like kind of going down the yellow brick road, right? I've gone from, sprinkles, this place doesn't feel right, and then history is messed up, and then history is not even a real thing. It's whatever whoever this is wants it to be. And then you start seeing things getting messed with and things not making sense. And all the while, I've always been kind of interested in religious studies, religious theology, and so on and so on and so on. I start to see inconsistencies there. I start to see manipulation of time and all the same shit there as well. And it's like, okay, that's also strange. But then, with that section of it, I start to notice how it affects even more than the manipulation of history. Because history, it allows people to say, oh, this is the way it's always been, or this is the way it has to be, or whatever. But with this manipulation of religion, and not just Abrahamic religion in general, I noticed two main things immediately. One of them is that they're telling the same story over and over and over again. I'm definitely not the only person that's realized that. You can find many podcasts talking about it. It's almost common knowledge at this point. Gnostic Informant is a good one. They have many videos breaking this down. Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio also. Same thing. Esoterica, same thing. Like, this is not just my theory. It's fact. It's not even a theory. It's fact. These are all the same story, and you'll find Orthodox apologists that are trying to refute all of this evidence and research that we've all done to show that this is the same stories over and over and over again. It's the same deities over and over again, changing their names and then just doing the same shit. So not only is it the same story in each of these civilizations and each of these cultures, just made to kind of like not necessarily match them so much, but like kind of that a little bit, but also to change it a little bit so it seems like it's different, I think. But also that it's, it's the same story, but it's also the same deities. If you're going by linear time, you'll say to yourself, okay, well, this came before this, so how is it, the same? It's because it's the same entities, the same deities, changing their name and then going about their business, doing more shit. And the implications of that were heavy for me. And you got to keep in mind, like, I'm not someone who's been raised to look at things this way, or brought up with an open-minded set of caretakers, right? I was just like many of us. I was brought up around people that it was very important to shape my views, tell me how to think, tell me what to believe, um, try to make me as normal or average as possible. So each time these huge revelations happen, it really affects me. It really, really affects me in the moment. I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck? You know? And so within, coming to this at the beginnings of it, I'm like, okay, so this is the same story over and over. What the fuck? Okay, it's the same deities over and over. All right. Then I come to the Gnostic story of creation. The Gnostic story of creation, and there are different sects of Gnosticism, and they do have different views. I almost said slightly, but it's not really slightly. The story is the same, but even the story changes a little bit. The Rosicrucians have a different view than the Valentinians, and the Valentinians have a different view than the Sethians. I don't necessarily like to say what I go for the most, but I will say in this sense, the Sethians kind of speak to me more so than the Valentinians, because essentially, I've talked about this before. It's in my posts, it's in other videos and shit. But really quick, it's a different creation story, pretty different from the one that all the Abrahamic religions tell. I haven't done a whole lot of research into like tribal creation stories. They're usually pretty out of pocket for me. But even there, some of the tribal creation stories kind of line up with the Gnostic creation story. It's essentially saying that, I skipped a step. The creation story of the Abrahamic religions subverts a lot of shit. It re- it replaces female entities with male entities, patriarchal shit. It takes out certain stuff. It's a mess. It's nowhere near the true account of what this is and how it started, as far back as we can find anyway, because I don't believe that there has to be a start, kind of, but even that is theoretical shit. There are people arguing on if this ever had a start or if it's always been, and so on and so on, which, whatever, dude, who gives a fuck? So the first the first starts to create iterations of itself, including an iteration, I think the last iteration, called Sophia. Sophia is so far removed from the first that, you know, she kind of feels like a way about it. She's like, what's happening? And also wants to be a creator herself. So she creates a being called Yaldabaoth, and you know, she's not sanctioned. She doesn't get you know, the go ahead from the first to create this being. And because of that, it's missing some shit and is an abomination. She's instantly like, what the fuck have I done? So she takes Yaldabaoth, puts him in his own realm, surrounded and enshrouded, so he can't be seen, gives him a throne, tells him he is, you know, this is your domain. Essentially, that's one version of it. Another version is that he just kind of like comes to, and he's in this realm with all this space and a throne, and he's like, oh well, shit, I'm God. It kind of makes sense, right? But then he does a similar thing and starts creating, and it's just a fucking not good situation. Like, something's missing in this deity, in this being, and that in itself is not you know, unforgivable, but the things that are done after that are unforgivable, and especially if you haven't even come to terms with the fact that you're doing wrong. uh, this is the I am a jealous God of the Bible and of the Quran and of the Torah, and you know, same being. Like I said, they change their name and then keep doing shit. And it's said that this deity is ignorant, like not necessarily the smartest, but keep in mind that's in comparison to deities that are all knowing, very intelligent, super intelligent. He looks around, doesn't see anybody else, doesn't look up, but doesn't look around really that much, and says, I am the only God. I'm the only God. Looks at his creations and says, you will only worship me, for I am a jealous God. Even within that, there are some inconsistencies. If you're a jealous God, that would denote there being other deities that are worthy in some form of worship. It's not a whole other discussion, but for the purposes of what I'm doing right now, I'm not going to go into all that specifically. I think I've even talked about it in other videos, probably some of the first ones. I think I talked about it in the cult video, and I know. Okay, so I know I talked about it in the Matrix video. This is why they call it the Matrix. Second video I put up, I think. Anyway, all of these things are leading me to, like, okay, this is starting to kind of, my brain is viewing these things as separate at first, but as I keep progressing, as I keep making steps, I start to realize, like, no, this isn't separate. This is all connected. All of this shit is connected to the same thing. And a big part of it, maybe not the very top, but at, you know, toward the top, is the Yaldabaoth and the Archons thing. And how, you know, the Gnostics view this place as their matrix, as a fake existence that they created. And I think the Gnostics more lean toward the second option that I gave, which is, this is real. This is a physical place, but it is also simulated. It's not what you should be experiencing. It is a prison. You're in, you know, you're imprisoned. You're in slavery currently, and you're being utilized for your creativity, for your ability to create. You're being utilized for your emotion, because they don't have that the way that you do, but they can, you know, supposedly feed on it. And even that goes into popular contemporary theories on ETs and aliens and angels and demons, all these mouth words that we are creating for things that we see or interact with that we don't understand. I vehemently disagree with continuing with these notions. While I understand that it helps to convey what you're talking about, to say angel or demon or alien or, God or whatever, I don't agree that we continue with that when we are starting to kind of like see evidence of something else being at play here. If you're discussing matrix and simulation theory, then for you to keep calling these things, these beings, angels and demons and so on and so forth, it's a contradiction. It's a contradiction. There's clues within even Abrahamic text that they're not that. If you have dominion over them, if they're jealous of you, then that denotes that you are more powerful than them. You have something that they don't. They are jealous of you. And if you take also into account that we all only, or I won't say we all, because there's other stuff in here with us. There's other, I don't know if this is like a video game at this point where other beings and deities and whatever else can come in here and play with us, or if they started, there was a point where I could almost swear there were like double or triple the number of people, just very abruptly. It might have been when I got myself out of the POW camp. I think it was. I think I got out and I was like, "What? Who? Where are all these people? Where did all these people come from?" Because I distinctly remember being able to go. I would skip school. And there would barely be anybody out. You would see some people, but it wouldn't be that many people. You'd go sit in a parking lot or go to a store or something like that, and there wouldn't be that many people. It would be very strange to see a lot of people out during the day. And keep in mind, there are going to be people that are going to be like, yeah, the pandemic, people stopped working. This is before that. This is well before the pandemic. This is like 2017. 2017, I'm like, who are all these people? Where did they come from? I can't go anywhere where there aren't a bunch of people. There are people sitting in little parking lots in business parks, random places. Like, it's very strange to me. And then people started talking about NPCs. So I very much believe that there are other things in here with us, in this terrarium with us, whether it be representations of players or, those that are managing this place coming down here. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I have theories that I, investigate, but whatever. It all starts to kind of like not meld together, but it starts to become more and more reasonable to make the leap that these things are not separate as I once, kind of automatically. It wasn't that was my theory. It's that's just what how my brain made sense of it subconsciously too. This wasn't conscious thought. It was just like, these are separate issues in my subconscious brain. Then when I start to pay attention to it and I'm like, wait, okay, so these all these theories are kind of like loosely associated. That's how I first thought of it. They're loosely associated, but they're not loosely associated. It's all the same thing. They're all clues to the same thing. And that's when I think my research didn't necessarily change. I still research these things independently, but now it's with the knowledge that they are not separate, and that I need to be able to be looking into this theory, and then if a certain piece of evidence or context affects this theory over here, I have to be able to make that, connection, which it's very difficult, especially when there aren't many. I haven't seen many that are specifically doing this kind of research. There's a lot of like history correctors. There's a lot of like people are beings looking for what's fake and what's real. There's beings doing research in the avenues, like in the separate avenues, but I don't see many that are trying to connect all of it to make sense of this. Even the ones that are into the Gnostic stuff are kind of more just focused on religious text and the lies and the manipulation, and they talk about matrix theory. Aeon Byte, I would say, is probably the closest. I don't think Miguel would say that he's researching in all theory or anything like that. I think he would just say he's interested in all theories, because it seems very much like Miguel is like, just trying to make sense of this, not necessarily from every single standpoint, and to create to create a tangible theory, but almost like not accidentally, but like kind of doing it, but not intentionally, not consciously researching for the purpose of making a theory of all of this. So it's difficult because it feels like I am one of the few, and I only say one of the few because it's hard for me to accept I'm the only person researching this. I don't really think that. I just think I haven't come across probably few others that are at this point, because not only is it a very specific route to get to this point, research wise, but it's all, you also have to be comfortable with being ridiculed and called crazy, and have all this animosity towards you over something. If I'm crazy, then why does it bother you that I'm looking into this shit so much? If I'm off, then why the fuck are you paying attention to me? And within that same thought, I randomly get followed by like Masons. I randomly get followed by Masons. I realized that the town that I moved into, and this is a small town, by the way, I'm not going to tell you where it is, obviously, but there are lots of Masonic temples here. There are lots of Mason, they're temples, right? Masonic temples. Yeah, there's lots of Masonic temples here. I randomly get followed by Masons, both figuratively on these, apps and whatever, but physically, I get followed by Masons, and they start like conversations, and it's like very strange. Not to say I'm being threatened outright or anything like that, or courted, I guess you would call it. Like, it's not like they're trying to, you know, recruit me directly. Actually, some have asked. A few have asked, and I'm not interested. I know you have knowledge of things, but I think I'm coming to that knowledge on my own, and that's why I'm being like, approached, for lack of a better word. So I guess I was wrong in what I was about to say. It is like I'm being kind of like looked at for a reason. I just blocked a dude today, or I didn't block him. He followed me. Didn't have a small following either. 7,000 people pay attention to this person's thoughts and views, which isn't necessarily surprising. It is a Mason, but that is still strange because that's the first one that was openly a traveler, but also like had a good a good number of followers. I'll say followers for this because I don't view that as supporters. You're on a different, you're doing different stuff. So they probably are like, some of them at least, followers and brothers or whatever you guys call each other, supporters. But I'm not interested in that, and it does make me feel as though this is not something that is being widely researched or talked about. I haven't come across many people talking about specifically this, theory, I know that it might not seem like it is a very like, oh my god, that's crazy to some, because you're not really thinking about the implications of what I'm saying, or you're like snickering to yourself and calling me crazy or whatever the fuck. But for those that are able to get past those two things and really listen to what I'm fucking saying, and to take me at my word, or go look through all my shit and see I am really doing this research, I'm not, you know, just saying this shit, the implications of what I'm researching and saying, it's it's fucked up. It's fucked up. It's kind of horrifying. And you know, I'm repeating some of the shit that I think I was saying earlier on in my videos, like first couple videos, but this is the research I'm doing. This is the truth. I'm saying how I truly feel. I'm not going to stop. Even with the weird hands-off intimidation and manipulation and so on and so forth, I'm not going to stop, because it's important to me. It's important to me for both me, for those that I do care about, and for those that I will care about, that I can feel but haven't been able to find yet. Yeah, but the Mason today followed me, and I just like, how do you say it? It's not unfollowing. I just so I removed him from the my supporters, those that I'm in connection with. I don't know if they can follow you again, but I'm not interested, dude. I'm not interested. Stop. Stop. Stop fucking asking me. I'll always have a conversation. I don't have an issue with that, as long as you're being respectful and not trying to make me feel intimidated or some shit, because you're not going to do that. I'll just stop talking to you. Or if it's in person, you know, whatever happens in that situation will fucking happen. You know, you're not going to intimidate me. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. I'm gonna continue to do this shit. You already know I am. If you've been paying attention at all, you know I'm not gonna fucking stop. So if you're gonna do something, fucking do something. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you there. But the the theory has been growing. Or not growing, but there's been progress. And lately that progress has been subtle, but not at the same time. And earlier I gave an example. I didn't mean to do this, but you know, if I have this kind of theory that if your throat chakra opens up for real, and you know, again, these are all just mouth noises, but they are attached to real things sometimes. So whatever you want to call it, it's hard to not talk about certain things. If for me personally, if we're already in a conversation about something loosely related, doesn't even have to be like the thing that I end up talking about. If my brain makes that connection, then it's sometimes difficult for me to be like, oh well, you know, they don't want to hear that, don't talk about that, or whatever, because I don't know why. I don't know why that is. Best thing I've been able to come to is that whole throat chakra thing. But somehow it was the Goyim shit, and the conversation just progressed, and I wasn't talking about the Canaanites specifically, even though I am pretty sure that they worship whoever. I've been saying Yaldabaoth. The names don't matter, but that's the energy. That's the entity or entities that kind of like have, like the architect and those that worked with and for the architect in the Matrix, or the director in the fucking Truman Show. Like, you can apply that, concept however you want to, but it kind of progressed from that goyim conversation, because they didn't know what a goyim was, and so I went and looked it up, and because I wanted to be precise in what I was saying instead of just what I know it to mean, the derogatory shit that it actually means. And somehow it progressed into me talking about this stuff, and I was like, think of if you were playing chess and you wanted the other person to think that you won, to disorient them, and to make it to where the only way that they can continue is to rebuild from scratch. You would make a move and then just scramble the board up real hard and be like, yep, I won, got you, real fast. That is what has happened here. That's what has happened here. They made a move on us, and by us, I don't mean a specific pigment or race. I'll say that as many times as I talk about this. I'm not just talking about copper-skinned beings. Though I share the feeling of camaraderie and family with my fellow copper, skinned beings, I think that that is being used to keep us from realizing what has really happened. I think that we're making progress into realizing something kind of extraordinary has happened to us. But pause.